my guest today actually needs no introduction. He's a man that we've all encountered in different ways, different facets of our lives. But for the sake of formalities, I shall introduce him. He's a business mogul. He's a statesman, as some would describe him. He's been there, done that, faced the rough tide of life. And today I've caught him chilling. Cool. He was just chewing groundnuts before we got here on air. If you've not guessed yet, I'm talking about Captain Prince Kofi Amoabeng Rtd. He joins me today for a conversation. Thank you for joining me.
Did you have to talk about the groundnuts?
I had to bring in the groundnuts. I mean, it was so cool the way you took things easy. I see you take life very, very easy. You don't fuss about it. You don't stress about life.
No, if you know you've been blessed, then you're only looking for how to return the blessing. So you don't fight hard. There's nothing for you to really fight for. It's a matter of living a life that depicts the appreciation of what your Creator has done for you.
Right.
Nowadays, I'm becoming like a pastor. People say, I want to be an
Has there been any switch in that regard?
No.
I mean, you know, Lord Kenya, secular music at a point became... We've had those transitions. Is that
I've always been a Christian. And my upbringing was in deep Christianhood. My grandmother, my mother. And I started going to church at the age of maybe 4.5, 5. And I wake up every morning, they take me to church, and I would dance, and I would be by the sofa. And then, you know, Presby, when you go to church, by the time you finish church, everyone greets everybody. And to show that it's a new life. So really, I have been a Christian, but in my own way. So people say I don't go to church. I go to church. I go to church when there's a funeral or when there's a wedding I have to attend. And then I relate to my God the way I think I should.
So I'm going to push you a bit. Do you go to church at Easter, Christmas, New Year?
No.
You don't?
Those are the good days to play golf, incidentally.
That's an interesting sneak peek. There are so many matters we want to discuss with you, but let's start with some of what you've been up to. And you have this foundation you've started. You're impacting the lives of many young people. Tell us about it. What's the name of the foundation?
Kofi Amoabeng Leadership Foundation. And I started that foundation because if I don't sleep well in the night, the only thing I think about is the state of the state. As in the state of Ghana. And it's a story that I tell people that, you know, when I was growing up, my father told me that his father, whom I was named after, did not believe in independence for the black man, that blacks could not govern themselves. And when he was about to die, he called my dad and said, come and disprove what I'm saying, so I'll be waiting for you for your confirmation or otherwise. So when my father was going to die, he called me and said, Kofi, your grandfather said this, and I'm going to tell him that he was right, but I should wait for you, because by your time, Ghana would have changed. I've told my son the same as I sit here.
Wow.
Now, I don't want to just go and tell them this sad situation, but I want to tell them at least I have started something to change the narrative. So, to the Leadership Foundation, what I decided to do with my life, whatever is left of it, is to bring up young people with the right values and attitudes, and our vision is a revolutionized mindset for the African leader. Because everything is about leadership. And if you don't have the right leadership, as we don't have, we shouldn't expect anything good to happen to us. Now, everybody, statesmen, leaders, all talk about the mindset. It's okay to talk to the youth about experiences and what they need to do and values. Some will take it, some may not take it, but when they see hardships in reality, that's their real life, it's difficult for them to say that they say we should do the right thing. So what I have done with the Kofi Amoabeng Leadership Foundation is to form Kofi Amoabeng Scholars. I'm trying to create, not just tell them, but create the kind of leaders who can cause change in leadership positions. The thing is, do I have hope? Yes. It's like casting thy bread upon the waters. just maybe we can get one of them who has been really revolutionary, and he's built a hospital, he connected the roads, he's created the neatest town in Ghana for sure. His kingdom, so to speak, which is really in the middle of nowhere. And he's built a fantastic first-class palace. He says the biggest palace in Africa, maybe. And he's built a hospital, he connected the roads, he's created the neatest town in Ghana for sure.
That's massive.
Yes.
Maybe the president can learn a thing or two from him in terms of making a crowd cleaner city.
A lot. Not a thing or two. And now his aim is to create the nicest town. And you go and see the effort he's putting. Kushia itself. Mm. So I took my scholars there, he invited us, and he had time for us. He spent over 3 hours in the morning sitting with us, sharing his experiences and what Ghana could become. Right. Hosted us for dinner and everything, and we're all overawed with his ideas, his experiences, the way he's down to earth, the way he respects and cares for his people and everybody for that matter. And those are the leaders that we have to pick up and let the youth associate with them and network with and everything. So the scholars, I'm trying to create leaders. Another way I look at it is that I'm trying to clone people like me who will look at things, not fear another human being, fear God by all means, respect everybody, be honest and have integrity at all times, be committed to serving people and so forth. Because really, this world is not about all the material things that are around. It's about what we can do to improve the world for us. And that is missing for most of us.
That's some fantastic work you're doing. But I'll ask you this. Ghana is 67. What is wrong with our leadership mindset? Initially, you were talking about values, attitudes that you want to inculcate in them. And you went on to suggest, almost, you could clarify, that we didn't have leaders. Do we have leaders?
Of course we have leaders. We choose leaders, and they are leaders. Mm. But we choose our own kind. And we've unfortunately arrived at a situation where we have what we call democracy, which is supposed to be the best form of governance. And we are practicing it. But this democracy makes me feel hopeless about this whole situation.
Why?
It will never give us a good leader. Never.
This democracy?
Yeah.
As we have it in Ghana.
It will not give us a leader that can change Ghana. Because the issue is, by the time the leader gets into position, he's been corrupted already. Mm. He owes too much money, too much favors. He owes the party, he owes individuals. And then our constitution also makes him too powerful to really satisfy all these people that he owes. For example, the president appoints or approves of about 6,000 appointments. And he has to make sure that all his people get
DCs, MCs, SOEs,
ambassadors,
IGP,
board members, CEOs, you know. And so the way of awarding the position to people too is that it's about who has served me or who can serve me. I mean, somebody wins election primary, so he's going to parliament and he gets a CEO appointment. That's quite recent. So you ask yourself.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Do you have problems with that though?
I have problems with it. I have problems with a whole lot of appointments. Mm. I mean, I don't want to be mentioning names, but people get appointed not because they know the subject, not because they have the expertise and the experience. It's because they are serving the powers that be. So it's not about merit. Actually, it's about mediocrity. And these guys go, because they know they don't know, then they become pompous and cover their shortcomings and things and disrespect people. So talking about leadership, we have a long, that's why I'm trying to create the kind of leaders who will say that we need to put systems in place. We need to respect everybody. And you work with systems, not with some powerful chiefs, not with powerful pastors, not with family and friends, because we're talking about Ghana. So let the systems work. And it's not difficult if the systems are working to be a leader. Because take Mark Zuckerberg. Then, as you sit here, you should be a better leader than him. He only found a product or service that we enjoyed, but the systems were there to support him. Yeah. So he's a multi-billionaire CEO. But you find something which we want, we will cut you down. And you can't become the kind of leader that potentially you can become.
They know channel. They know you're not one.
To know when you know. So it's a tall order, but at least I'll jibe at it and see what happens.
If you could change one thing about Ghana today, 67 years on, but in this Fourth Republic now, what would it be?
I'll change the president.
You change the president?
Yep.
Wow.
And probably I'll put Kushia Chief as president.
I was about to ask you, do we have the alternatives?
Oh, we do have a few people, but I see they've been called and Oyekra or what effect. There are a few people who are like me. I thrive in controversy. I don't care what people do. I want to do the right thing that I believe is right. Right. And take it or leave it. I mean, as you speak, I'm in court too, so I shouldn't be sitting here, shooting my mouth, and oh yeah, this, way, that. But it is what it is. You can't take it away from me. You know.
Let's talk about the state of the nation. One of the things everyone has been talking about, because it impacts everybody, doomsday, power outages. In fact, when we came here, and I'll not mention where we are, we realized the plant or the generator was on, making a lot of noise. When I was coming here from work, we had our systems on because the power was off. Then you have the situation where the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana, because you are into business, the Ghana Publishers Association, all of them are complaining about power outages, then the cost of doing business. As a business mogul, when you look at that and look at what is happening, what do you see? Where are we getting it wrong?
I think it cuts across all sectors, and the government is very short of delivering what the people want, or the people put them there for. I was talking about Kushia. To go to Kushia is about 217 kilometers. It will take you about 5 hours, if you are lucky. If Kaswa decides to misbehave, it will take you 7 hours, 8 hours for 200-kilometer distance. So we failed in roads. We failed in hospitals, we failed in education, we failed in health, we failed...
Let me take you on 2 points. Roads, you mentioned roads and education.
Everything.
We have free SHS, which has been highly touted. Roads, even in recent times, again, we've been told that no administration has done the sort of work this administration has done when it comes to roads. How can you be saying this?
Please,
Aren't you seeing the roads? Aren't you seeing the impact on education?
Are you seeing the roads is the question I should ask you. All roads that are under construction have come to a halt. Why? Because the government has come to say it can't pay foreign financiers, it can't even pay the local ones, and they have to take haircut and armpit cut and all sorts of things. So you find that all roads are at a standstill, or they're going at a very slow pace, because we can't raise the money. And a whole lot of things account for it. Cocoa prices have gone down because the volumes have gone down. That's the main source of foreign exchange. Bank of Ghana is owing, what, 600 and something billion. When they call the figure, you even don't understand. Yeah. And, you know, the king, Afede...
Over 60 billion, if I'm right.
The king, Asogli king, Afede, made a statement which captures exactly the mess in which we have, with Bank of Ghana expenses so balloon that they have to keep interest rates high and so on and so forth. And the corruption that we see and feel, and the disrespect and the arrogance of those in power. I mean, it makes Ghana not a nice place to be, but this is the only land that we have. So we have to do our best about it.
In the midst of all of that, we want to attract foreign direct investment, we want to attract businesses, and you do know, I don't need to list all of them, the Glovos, the Jumias, the Lipton Teas, many of them, about 8 of them, have upped and left.
It's reached 8?
Oh, yes.
I knew only about 6.
There are 8 of them. I could actually give you a full list. And they are citing different metrics in our economy. Right. Can we stem the tide of that?
It all boils down to mismanagement of the economy. Mismanagement in all sorts. If I should stick to my sector as in the finance sector, there was a cleansing of the financial sector. And we used 25 billion government figures. That was about $6 billion. And after using $6 billion to cleanse the banking system, we were left in a situation where we had to go and beg IMF for $3 billion. I mean, really, who does that? And I bet that the government could have done the cleansing in any form they wanted with about half that amount at best. So it's raw mismanagement.
So you think even in cleansing, even in the banking sector cleanup, they messed up. A mess.
There's a bit of hatred, jealousies, not investigating clearly, and so on and so forth. But I don't want to talk about that because it would be like, okay, so his bank was taken and therefore he's bitter. You don't do things like that. When banks are having problems, you investigate and bail them out. And they thrive and survive and come back and pay the loans that they're supposed to pay. And it happened in the US in 2008 with bigger banks. Yeah. And we did a process, undertook a process which cleared the indigenous banks, so leaving the country for the foreign banks. Who does that? A lot of things I can't even explain. So I ask myself, maybe I'm a bit crazy, because how can anybody think that way about his own country? And the country is virtually in the hands of foreigners. And we're losing our cocoa farms due to galamsey, which is not being checked. For goodness sake, the president is the commander-in-chief of armed forces, is head of the police, it's got, what do you call it, GRE to collect our money for them, got customs to check everything. So you have the money, you have the men, you have the ammunition, you have the control, you're commander-in-chief, and nothing can happen. I tell you, I can't believe it. That we can't stop galamsey. Who said we can't stop galamsey? We have a whole armed forces at this point with helicopters and drones and everything. And you can't stop galamsey?
Maybe the fight is bigger than that because it's also economic, mind you. And the president, mind you, at a point, so I think this was in 2017, he put his presidency on the line. If 7 years down the road, he's not been able to tame the menace of galamsey, what does that tell you? Maybe galamsey is bigger than the president?
But he made too many promises. Accra will be the cleanest city in Africa. Ghana will be whatever and so on and so forth, the tourist attraction. None of them has materialized. And we now still have leaders who are also promising or over-promising similar things, which won't happen or can't happen. I mean, someone said we should look at the rail from Accra to Lagos. Oh, for goodness sake. Since Atamir's time and Kufuor's time, we only are able to do Accra to Tema, which breaks down. The one that we wanted to launch or something like that, somebody put a truck on the way, probably had an accident. The promises, you know, it's as if we don't even have sense. So I don't listen to Ghana news nowadays. I'll probably take the graphic or something, flip through to see the news items that are not insulting, and then I'll close it and put the rest down. Because the thing they tell you, it tells you that you are stupid. So it's raw mismanagement. And to cause a change, it's not difficult. It comes from one person, the leader. The leader makes sure the systems are working, and he leads by example. Let me give a simple example. We're all irritated about why we don't keep time and this and that. If the president should decide that he is going to keep to time for all his appointments and sanction his immediate subordinates if they are late, like to keep them out of meetings, it will not take 2 weeks for Ghanaians to realize that time is important. But I see presidents who are late 2 hours. The state is taking care of you completely. You have your convoy with sirens when you are going for appointment, and we have to pack because you are the president, go on time to take decisions that will affect our lives. And then you are late 2 hours. And when you are late 2 hours, even no apology. It simply means they don't respect us, period. And it's sad. So,
with these sorts of promises that are being made now, you said maybe it's in vogue because the more you promise,
the more
the more
promise
people
and bribe the people and take the power and forget about the promises. It's as simple as that. So
how about our role on the other end? You know, you said at some point that we get the leaders we deserve. right?
Yes, absolutely.
How about the rest of us who also, whether we think differently or not, feed into this system? Because I've also heard people say, when even it's political primaries, even recently in Ejiso, people will tell you openly, you know, your cocoa season new because game over, so we must get a pound of flesh now. How about us?
Well, that's why we're sitting here. Us, we are in the minority, like you are certainly in the minority, forget it. You know? Because the majority of the people, they have myopic minds, they are probably illiterate, they certainly are not discerning. Because anybody who would take even 1,000 cedis and sell his or her future, can you understand the person? So if I take 1,000 now, for the next 4 years, I'm going to be exploited. My children won't have the right schooling, you won't get the right hospitals, you won't get the right rules to work on. But you still will accept, for most of them, 20 cities, not even 1,000. So and democracy is by representation. So if the majority will go that way, then you have to follow. It's as simple as that.
In terms of, just to wrap on the economic front, resuscitating our economic life. It's not impossible, but how will we get there? Look at the metrics. Inflation has reached a 20-plus year high. You look at the currency.
It was coming from 50-something. And the funny thing about
that's when it hits almost 54%, thereabouts.
The funny thing that people don't understand about inflation is, if prices go up by 50% and you say inflation is 50%, when you say it's dropped to 40%, it means on top of the 50% which didn't go away, there's another 40% on the whole lot. So it is not like, oh, we've done well, inflation is dropped from 50 to 40. What are you talking about? It doesn't take out the 50%. It's 40% on top of the 150%. That's what it means. And politicians will want to brag about it, that we brought inflation down from whatever to whatever. Really? And you haven't increased salaries, people's earning power and everything, and they are still supposed to survive? It's not possible.
So it's 20-something% now. You have the local currency, the cedi. As for that, it's almost 15.
Yep.
I think as of yesterday it was 14.8, thereabouts, 14.9 to the American greenback. The pound is around 17. Then you look at the other metrics, the cost of living. Just today, you know, I mean, we had some interactions on spare parts prices and all of that. It's crazy. It's a killer. But is there a way of turning things around and coming back to economic viability to the point where not just the metrics, the macroeconomics, but the microeconomics, the person down there can feel the impact?
Okay, there's my take on it. If you are in a bad state as we are, what you do is assess your situation critically. In this case, the resources you have and the potential that you have, and try and raise financing to actually bring out this potential that you have. Unfortunately, and I want to stop here, the loans that we've taken, which is unheard of, we don't even see what we use them for. If we use them to probably build solid roads, you can say that with time, foodstuffs, movement of people will pay for it.
The roads will pay for themselves.
Yeah, but exactly. But when you don't see what the monies have been used for, then it means you're going to a deeper pit. And so the solution, if you ask me, take prudent loans, strategic loans, or strategic funding. It doesn't all have to be loans. Some of it, you can actually, we have BOTs and BOs and all sorts of things. Construct a road, let them actually operate it and pay for it for some time, and the road becomes yours. It's all there. It's nothing new. So look at your situation and look at the kind of funding which you can employ to take you out of the rut we are in. Because you certainly need help. But when you go for those funding, and the fundings are not put to the use which they're supposed to do, you want to construct roads. You take a percentage of the money from the contractor. The contractor is owing the banks, you don't pay them on time. So they decide that they have to take shortcuts because that's the only reasonable way they can go to be able to survive. So the roads will last 2 seasons, 2 rainy seasons, and the roads are gone. Roads which are supposed to probably last about 20 years. So it means you're throwing the money away. But it can't, because one, we probably don't negotiate the loans properly. 2, the loans come in and I think there's too much corruption and cutbacks and all sort of things. So we are shortchanged as in what really gets here. And then when it comes to deploying it, if you are not one of us, we won't give you the contract. So the contract doesn't even go to people who are seasoned, know how to construct properly, because they won't pay the amount of money that they want.
Right.
So they give it to some contractor of theirs who will give them, sometimes they have for 20%, if not more. When you've done that, the contractor is now looking at it and saying that, then need to deploy maybe 40% of the monies I'm getting, so I can satisfy you people, because you want so much money from me. So the money is really, the funding that we get, don't go to serve the people, or don't go into the business and production that you're supposed to provide. And. You can sit there the whole day and narrate all these things, and it's not changing. You find people go into positions, and within 3, 4, 5 months, they are millionaires. They have 4 or 5 cars. They have big houses. The system is not asking them any questions. And you have the right to ask, because it's all right to make money. It's all right to have material things. But the state has provided the basic infrastructure for you to thrive to make those money. And therefore, you must pay tax.
Right.
But if people are not paying taxes and just flaunting the money, and the government is looking on, not asking any questions.
I mean, in other jurisdictions, if you use an Aston Martin when you've not, immediately eyes will be on you.
Exactly.
They will check on you. How did you get an?
Exactly.
How did you acquire an Aston Martin? What mechanisms do you use? Did you use the right methods? Did you pay tax
Exactly.
on it?
It's easy.
But here, I guess it's different strokes for different folks. But talking about leadership and major projects, one just came to mind. A lot of people have spoken about it, especially as the NPP administration under President Akufo-Addo is nearing an end. The National Cathedral. What do you think of it?
It's a 419. It's a 419.
Really?
Of course. How can they put state money, the whatever funding that they said they had, into putting that pit there? But you want me to have enemies in the government?
I'm not trying to hate enemies for you. It's prime to mind because you're talking about roads and other projects, and I just thought, okay, so what we've sunk into that, what if we used it elsewhere?
That's why I'm saying it's 419. 419 is when they dupe you of your money, you don't get anything out of it. So let's leave it at 419.
But do you think there's a use we could put that to in the future?
I think we have to consult architects and things like that. Maybe they could put up some edifice and use whatever there as a basement or something. But I don't know. I think
some have proposed we could use it as a university, others as a health extension of the Greater Accra Regional Hospital. Some say a governance institution to teach young people leadership and all that. I mean, that feeds into what you're doing, right?
As a matter of fact, it's better we don't even talk about that pit.
It's better we don't talk about that pit. You refer to it as a pit. But there's also a problem that some Ghanaians have with people like you. Do you know what the problem is? I
know people can't even stand me. I'm sure they'll be insulted that this man, Professor Ehai, and so on and so forth. But I'm here because, and we're talking about this, because I love Ghanaians, and I think we shouldn't be here. But anyway, let me listen to you. What do they...
There is that. But there's also the other bit where people feel, if you know all this, and you are this capable, especially as someone who led such a big organization, you were what? CEO of the year twice? Was it twice?
6 years, 3 times.
3 times.
Most respected CEO.
Most respected CEO.
Yeah.
3 times. People like you can do great things. You have done great things, you can. And people will ask, okay, so you talk about the politicians. Why don't you want to do something, take the initiative, and try to lead?
Thank you. So I started a company, good story, with 3 people in Kantamanto, no money virtually. And we grew it to become a bank with conglomerates. We were in South Africa, we were in India, not India, Nigeria. We had UT Live, we had UT Property, we had UT Logistics, a great story. Take Kofi Amoabeng out of it. Now, so we hit a bad patch with the banking because we had problems. We go to Bank of Ghana, They try to help. This new government comes, it says, no, we're not bailing you out, cut. Now, what most people don't know is that when I saw the problems that were coming in the bank, I told my board that, listen, I think I've stayed too long, and let's bring a new person. They even opposed it initially. I said, no. I'm over 60, and I've stayed too long. So almost 2 years before the bank was closed down, I was not the CEO of UT Bank.
You've mentioned that before.
Right. How many people in Ghana would say that what I created and I can be the CEO until it collapses under me? I said, no, please. For the sake of investors, the sake of workers, the sake of the state and everything, I am backing out. And I backed out. Now, when the bank went down, what did they do? They killed the bank for whatever reason they killed the bank for. I have some idea, but we can't discuss it all, so I won't touch it. They came for me, the guy who resigned 2 years ago. And during that 2 years, my board never complained about anything. Bank of Ghana never complained about anything. 2 years. But they came for me, went to Yoko, and now I've been in court for 4 years. If it's not because I am Kofi Amoabeng the way I am, they've gagged you for life. They have spoiled your reputation, and therefore they must be feeling very happy. So, to your question, I think I've even tried from the coffin which has not been nailed to come out to say, listen, I'm doing something about leadership, and I'm sitting with you trying to talk about the problems. Most people would just say, let me go to my court and live my small life, because whatever I built is being destroyed and my reputation is even being destroyed. But I know within me that I still have something that the country might make use of. That is why I'm venturing out. And I'm sure if you hate me, you won't be too happy about that. But that's up to you. I don't care. I want to do what is good for the system. So, to your people who think maybe